What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about SoFi. Go over some of the data points, break it down what really moved in, go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went down 2.98%, 21.09 the low, 22.04 the high. So during the pre-market, you can kind of tell that there was something off with SoFi because it started to pull back, whereas a lot of other growth stocks started to move higher. Yields were starting to drop, so clearly the market was kind of forward anticipating some sort of rate cut. Again, there wasn't really anything that came out over the weekend to somewhat justify that, but that's what was kind of happening behind the scenes. Nonetheless, you did see SoFi somewhat lag. It did also have somewhat lower volume today, 48.3 million shares being traded, 74.03 is the average. It wasn't necessarily just SoFi though. Majority of stocks were getting lower volume. You can kind of see that from here. So a pretty big change from the average, or at least the last 5-day average. One thing that did come out though that kind of spooked the broader market was this. So Powell is potentially facing some criminal charges over perjury, some claims. So I don't think much of this will stick, but still nonetheless, it goes to show that Powell, there's a lot of different individuals kind of after him to get out. So kind of interesting. Market didn't generally like that, caused this pullback right here. Of course, no different than I think it was last Thursday. It was short-lived, so people did buy the dip, but still it goes to show that some stuff is happening behind the scenes and the market generally doesn't like gray. And very interesting type of transition as well, because he's speaking tomorrow first thing. I don't anticipate him to really bring up this, but still he might be coming in like higher for longer type of mentality as per usual, so market might not necessarily like that. The only thing that also did come out that kind of caused some disruption in the broader market was just the psychological level, and this is something I've been bringing up on some various videos and also in my pre-market video, is that if the S&P, for instance, was to get to roughly around that 63.5 mark, that is a very heavy resistance, and no different than when we hit 5,000, 5,500, and also 6,000. Market just cannot fathom kind of us at those levels. Very psychological, so it starts to freak out and for whatever reason starts to pull back. So this is something I did state either Monday or Tuesday. Once we do hit that level, don't be surprised if we randomly just start to pull back. So I think in reality that was also one attributing factor why the broader market did go lower today. Today, though, there wasn't any news associated to SoFi, no SEC filings or anything along those lines. As far as shorts, they did return 230,000 shares. 14.07% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 152.7 million shares overall are being shorted. So I did see a couple posts saying that shorts are hitting SoFi hard today. It wasn't necessarily them, it was institutions selling. And there's a lot of big data points as well as companies unveiling their earnings this week. So as I mentioned in my video yesterday, anticipate a lot of volatility, and given how much the market has actually ran up, clearly some institutions are saying peace, I'm out, I'm taking my profits and just sitting on the sidelines and just going to watch. So I think that's kind of one thing that did happen with SoFi and just a lot of other growth stocks today. Looking at the options, you did see 33 million in calls, 7.7 in puts. 51% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. So clearly big money is anticipating a little bit of a pullback. And you can kind of see as far as right now, the options is expected post earnings for roughly a 10% swing. So yeah, it's going to be a volatile earnings as per usual. So 9.96%. So that works out to be roughly around a $2 move in either direction. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a deeper dive into their earnings, some expectations sometime this week. But going over here from the bulls standpoint, you do see a still a certain level of optimism for it to be above 22. So between $22 to $23 is anticipated. Bears are kind of forecasting for it to be sub 20. So a little bit more evenly divided with us where we did close. But as you can kind of see, a lot of transactions on the secondary market were sells. So institutions weren't really buying the dip, and I think again just SoFi and the broader market are largely overbought. So you kind of have some weakness or some grayness associated to Powell. A lot of companies unveiling their earnings. Some institutions, that's just too much for them. And plus, a lot of retail I do see online just saying, hey, you know what, I'm out, I'm going to be sitting on the sideline. So if you are one of those individuals and you took some profits, round of applause. I know some people always promote like diamond hand and all that stuff, which is always good. I am there to make money as far as an investor. So if I do feel that there is a substantial pullback happening, I completely agree. Take profits, lock in profits as well through bearish options. There's a lot of different ways how to go about it, but if you did that today, give yourself a shout out. Aside from all that though, these are all the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So a lot of transactions, 18.2 million just happened roughly about 20 minutes ago, for the most part, 3.3 million. And this is one thing that I do feel that market makers were covering throughout the day, as of course the market sold off, is because all those options from last week, you didn't see that crazy spike up that we did have the last couple of weeks. So in my opinion, the market makers were covering throughout the day, as well as clearly this 18.2 million is market makers as well. So there's still a lot of options that most likely are kind of not covered yet. So most likely you'll be seeing some random transactions over the next couple of trading days. But aside from that, with it at 21.16 where it did close, it is now trading between this S1 and this S2. So 21.11 is going to be a strong support, followed by 20.58. Flip side, 21.44, 21.97, and then 22.50 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. And I think just given what happened in the broader market today, that's just generally healthy for a lot of these stocks and their technicals, because I don't personally feel that we're down and out. There hasn't really been any crazy data points to justify a significant pullback, so I think it's premature to start panicking, but generally speaking, this is what happens when stocks are overbought. So again, I'm not really overly worried, but we'll just have to monitor the data and see if this kind of dip does get bought up. But there wasn't any new analyst ratings. I still do really anticipate that there's going to be one or two bearish ones that happen and come out throughout this week, because that's typically what does happen. The week prior to their earnings, you get at least some bears coming out for whatever reason. And it's been a while since we've heard from Compass Point, so most likely they might crawl out of the cave that they live in and give a rating. But aside from that though, even though today seemed rather scary, it wasn't on the actual chart itself, nothing overly to worry about. A couple of key points though is that you do have the super trend at 1926, the 50-day moving average sitting at 1601, and then the 100 and 200 are pretty much combined at around that $14 range. Because of the recent pullback and volatility that did happen on the Friday, you do see the stochastic RSI breaking off of the overbought status, so it's kind of getting there. So if it does continue to pull back, as I've mentioned, I think in my video even yesterday, if it gets to roughly $20, it should fully reset itself. So that's kind of a good thing. Overall, very good for kind of the stock's health, but still nonetheless, let me know your general thoughts. Do you think that this is the start of something bigger for a potential pullback, or is this just a one-off that we're going to get bought up? A lot of big companies unveiling their earnings could really push this higher, but it's all going to come down to perception, and that 63.50 that did happen earlier today is going to be that big resistance point on a larger scale that we need to get above. So let me know your viewpoint on SoFi. Do you think that this whole Powell type of scenario is justified? Do you think that he should just step down voluntarily? What's your kind of 2 cents on everything that's been happening? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.